Okay, we are live. Very sorry about that. I'm gonna put this stuff away quickly. The camera was once again, or my phone, excuse me, once again is being a pain in the butt. I gotta figure out what's going on with it. Maybe just turn off, turn on again. Who knows? But welcome. Let's chat about Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry? Positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear them. Got this weird squeaking sound. Let me know how well you can hear me, how well you can see me. Yesterday, we talked about, and I was very happy to talk about, scams, frauds, how to recognize possible scams and frauds as it relates to Freemasonry and just in general. The holiday season can be a time when there's a lot of that type of thing, unfortunately. And so I was very happy to spend a little bit of time talking about it. However, today I was thinking of talking about something a little bit different. Ideas for events that your Masonic Lodge can hold that can help create a more exciting, interesting, enjoyable lodge experience. Just today, for example, I came from a Masonic meeting. That's why I'm late, where we had a cookie contest. We had a Christmas holiday cookie contest, as well as a Tai Chi presentation. So it was a lot of fun, and maybe give some ideas. All right, let's give it a few minutes. Let's wait to see who joins. For the first hour, though, we just hang out and chat about anything. So any topics, any conversations on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear it. And please jump in the chat. Oh, afternoon, brother Michael Moore. How is your morning going? Still, any thoughts as to whether you plan to come on Saturday or not? Just so I can have your stuff ready. If not, no worries at all. And I hope you are doing well. Everything is good. Had a great meeting this morning. We had Tai Chi presentation at Coffee Club, as well as a Christmas cookie contest. So it was a blast. It's the little things, right? I think one thing I want to talk about today is things we can do within Freemasonry to try and what's what I'm looking for, create more exciting lodge experiences. I think sometimes, unfortunately, we have a bad habit of not thinking outside the box when it comes to the fun things that we can do. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Michael Moore. When you say, do you mean like a family older brother or a member of your lodge? Either way, that sucks. I'm really sorry to hear that. Losing someone, whether it's a fraternal, like Masonic brother or your brother, is always terrible. So I'm really sorry to hear that. I hope you're taking some time to, I guess, talk to someone if you need to. And try to remember the good times that you had with him, but that sucks. Hello, Dad. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining as always. So yeah, so at least I can say my morning was good. Like I said, Border Cities Lodge meeting, a great Border Cities Lodge meeting. 2 new members joined. Michelle Broussard has actually been a guest on this podcast in the past. So he joined, another brother. Border Cities Lodge in Windsor. It's a struggling lodge, but I'm proud to be the worshipful master of this lodge, and it is growing. 44-year member from Livonia, 73-ish. Okay. So, I mean, it still sucks either way, but 73 years of age, no, at least he had a good life. And 44-year Mason, that's very impressive. I'm just 25 years in and I'm exhausted, so I can only imagine how tired he must have been. Michael, can you hear me well? Let me check the reception on my end. Or is it that you can't see me well? Hello, Linking Atlas. How's it going? I'm just going to check to see how well this is coming through. Testing. It's okay on my end. Well, hopefully your TV reception gets better. It could just be a bad internet link. Who knows? But I think it's coming through well on my end anyways. Yeah, Brother Michael's got me at least. Yeah, but that does suck. So I'm assuming there'll be a Masonic service for the brother. Sound is okay. So it's just you can't see me well, or does it look good? Honestly, this camera doesn't. This camera is. We got Heart Smokey the Clown. This camera is not the best. The problem is, for some reason, on my phone, the audio is not coming through. I have to take it in to get it fixed, I think. The problem is I'm so swamped right now. I don't know when I'm going to have time to get it fixed, but I'm working on it. Linking Atlas. I'm really sorry that you're experiencing family issues. That sucks. You say elder brother. I mean, I'm an only child. I'm a single child, so I don't necessarily know what it's like to have family, familial, sibling rivalry, but I can tell you within Freemasonry, brothers get into fights all the time. In fact, it's the nature of what it is to be a brother. We fight. I hope, though, that you're able to work it out. It sucks dealing with family issues. I think everybody would agree with that. And once again, though, welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Please take a moment, hit that like, hit that subscribe. And I will do my best to get my phone fixed so you can finally hear me again. No, it's fine. It's just easy to do. I think my phone needs an update, to be honest. No worries, Smokey. I appreciate you being here, even for a few. Don't forget about my 24-hour live stream on the 21st, and don't forget I will be we'll be doing a live stream together on the 29th, so that will be fun as well. I definitely cannot linking Atlas because I think you're definitely looking too much into what I can or can't do. Anything, any success you have is your success at dealing with issues. It's not up to me. I cannot do anything to help you spiritually. Believe me, the last person you want trying to help you spiritually would be me, just for the record. But we're going to hang out, get a bit more time. I'll be back on at 1 a.m. as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Today at 1 hour in, so about 2 p.m., I'm going to start talking about what we can do within Freemasonry to make our lodge meetings more interesting, more exciting, potentially during the holiday season, but really all year long. These are just going to be some ideas that I have. You may have your own that you can put in the chat. I think that's often feels that way when it comes to family, that it often feels like it's a forever fight, but nothing's forever, Linking Atlas. Don't forget that, right? Nothing is forever. Things take time, things change. So, I mean, sooner or later, nature ends everything, right? welcome. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. For now, I'm just waiting to see who wants to jump in the chat. Who wants to say hello? Who wants to talk about Freemasonry? Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear it. Hope you're well, brother. The brother I spoke about has resigned. I think you told me that before. I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, sometimes though, a resignation is best if the person is really struggling within Freemasonry, is not enjoying it anymore, and in the process of not enjoying it anymore, is making other people not enjoy it. Um, that can be time for resignation. Well, I'm glad you feel better, Linking Atlas, but don't forget, right? Anything in terms of how you feel is you and how you feel. It's not about me. Just always keep that in mind. But for the time being, we're going to hang out. We're going to wait to see who jumps on the chat, who says hello. I'm very much looking forward to Colombia. It's going to be a blast. I have no doubt. And we're just going to wait to see who jumps in the chat. Like I said, 1 hour in, I'm going to talk about my specific topic for today, what we can do within Freemasonry to make our lodge meetings more interesting. Having said that, I'm always happy to get any ideas from the chat on that. And of course, I'm always happy to get a like, a subscribe, a comment, a potentially a super chat, all that good stuff. That is true. Dad brings up a good point, right? We talk in Freemasonry about being charitable. Yesterday was Giving Tuesday, but charity means a lot of different things. Charity can be not just money. Charity can be forgiveness, second chances, time, energy, judgments. You can be charitable in all of those things. I don't know if I would, because I don't know if I would say I would pray per se, but Linking Atlas, I will keep you in my thoughts, as I will keep everyone in my thoughts. That's a good question. I mean, there's a little bit of a Christian ethic in there, in the sense that I don't think any of us, anyone, is truly worthy, right? It's kind of like the rough ashlar to the perfect ashlar. We're never actually going to reach the point where we can call ourselves a perfect ashlar, or we can consider ourselves a perfect ashlar, right? That's not possible. There's always going to be parts of us that are unworthy, always going to be parts of us that we can try to improve upon. So I think when I hear the phrase worthy men, I usually think of it not, worthy does not come from being perfect, because in that case, none of us would make it. Rather, it comes from, do we make our best efforts? Do we work as hard as we can to perfect ourselves? Do we work as hard as we can, not just to improve upon our perfections, but even those things at which to improve upon imperfections, but even those things which are good about us, do we rest on our laurels, or do we still try to improve them? So to me, what it means to be worthy is not that you are perfect. It might even be that you're worthy per se, but it's that you're putting in genuine effort to try to better yourself, to try to better your lodge, to try to better your community, and to try to better your world. That is kind of my humble opinion on that. What about you, Minotaur? What do you think of the phrase "to worthy men only"? When you hear that phrase, what does you think that means? Because again, if you um, are looking for worthy in the sense of perfect with your applicants, with your Masons, you are definitely going to be disappointed. Thank you, Minotaur. Well, I mean, the best thing you can do to help support this channel is sharing this with your friends. Good old WOM, word of mouth. And I also posted a few poll questions on my channel. I hope you'll answer those questions. See, that's a very interesting point, Minotaur. I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but and it's not something I don't know how I feel about it, right? What you're talking about obviously is guarding the West Gate. And that's one of those questions that I mean, I think probably more so than any other topic, this idea of guarding the West Gate and are we successfully guarding the West Gate has been brought up like countless times within Freemasonry. It's hard to say though. Like I had an idea of what it means to be more discerning within the realm of personality assessments. I actually wrote a Medium story about being more discerning as who we add to the Masonic universe through personality assessments. If you want to read that article, you can email me and I'll send it to you. There's also my belief, and I've always believed this, that we should do credit checks, background checks, health checks on new applicants. Having said all of that, um, I don't know. When you consider the fact that our numbers are dropping so precipitously in North America, can we really afford to be that discerning? It's a bit like me saying, I'm only going to date the top 10% of supermodels. If no supermodels are trying to date me, does it really make sense for me to be discerning? We're at a point now where so many brethren are either leaving or people aren't joining. I don't know if we can afford to be too discerning. Um, I think we need to keep that in mind. Well, then you don't have to Nigerian Nightmare. You do you. But thank you so much for being here nonetheless. Don't forget to hit that like button, drop some hearts, etc., etc. I mean, I definitely don't think Freemasonry, no worries, Rondo. I don't think Freemasonry belongs to all men. I wouldn't put it that way. I think that's not the right way to view it. Having said that, though, um, I also don't think it's about wanting to be a better man necessarily. I know to make good men better is the standard kind of line within Freemasonry. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. Um, and I don't know if I necessarily know the how do I put this in a way that makes sense? I think people should want to join Freemasonry not for necessarily or not out of a desire necessarily to be better themselves or to become better men. Rather, it's about contribution. They should want to join Freemasonry because they want to contribute to the community, to the world, right? They want to contribute something. They think they have something to contribute. I think my concern with the phrase to make good men better is it implies that you join Freemasonry because you're trying to get something out of it. You're trying to get some type of self-improvement out of it, as opposed to can you join because you want to contribute? Dad is right, though. There is no definitive answer within Freemasonry. Every Mason finds his own answer. Well, you're going to be very disappointed, Nigerian Nightmare, because Jay-Z is not a Freemason, and Freemasonry will not make you rich. I've talked about that before. Well, I mean, there are many lodges that are experiencing disharmony. In some cases, it's due to a rapid influx of um, new members. In many cases, the opposite can be the case. You can have too few members, which means everybody has to do extra work more than they want to. And as a consequence of that, um, um, that creates disharmony because everybody's doing 2 or 3 jobs. I mean, there is no simple answer to these issues, Minotaur, but it is definitely possible for lodges to grow too quickly and face the consequences of it. That is neither. I mean, the diamond hand thing, some people just put their hands that way. Interesting enough, Andrew Tate sometimes holds his hands that way. That doesn't mean anything. It's just the way some people hold their hands. And Illuminati really doesn't um, exist. I'm very sorry to all the conspiracy theorists to say. Do we have to pay every year? I didn't know Mormons had to pay every year. To be a Mason, you have to pay yearly dues. Some members don't. They take out life memberships. They do whatever it is. Um, but yeah, within every Masonic lodge, there are what's called um, there are what's called dues. They're usually paid yearly. They can be as low as $40 per year, as high as 100, as high as $500. It just depends on the lodge and how expensive it is to operate. And welcome. If you're just joining us, we're going to chat about Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, please let me know. Well, I mean, I know that 10% of your income, that sounds to me like tithing, which, I mean, tithing is a thing that religions do. It's not something, because Freemasonry is not a religion, it's a club. So a club would never charge you based on your income, or it shouldn't really. It should charge you a flat rate. Um, but I know there are different churches that tithe. I don't know. Again, I don't know enough about how it operates to say I'm Catholic. I don't pay. Well, there you go. I mean, I think every religion has its own ideas as it relates to offerings, tithings, um, collection plates, charity. Within Freemasonry, very often members will donate out of their own persons to, assist with a brother in need, or they pay into a broken column fund, which is meant to act as charitable donations if a brother needs assistance. Well, don't do that, Nigerian Nightmare. That's not cool. I feel like that's going to be particularly problematic. Yeah, there's a million different dues. There's a million different um, organizations that have membership fees. Some do it flat rate. There's different ways to do it, right? There's different ways to do it. But when it's a percentage of your income, I usually think of it in the sense of um, a tithing, which is not what Freemasonry is, because we are not a religion. And to everybody who's here, welcome. Thank you again so much for being here. Please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how it's going and if there's anything you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear it. I mean, if you were interested and you are comfortable, you can let me know what your dues are. Again, for us, it's $40 per year. For me, my cheapest, I remember 5 lodges. My cheapest is $40 US per year. My most expensive is about 175 per year. Well, it's one of those things for a lot of people, their dues are probably lower than they should be, right? They're in many cases, I know brethren pay more for Netflix subscriptions than they do for their yearly dues, which is probably not a good business model. Not even forget the term business model, just not a good model with which to be engaged, right? Freemasonry should probably be more expensive than a Netflix account. Well, interestingly enough, some people have had ideas like that. Not necessarily the idea of pushing them out, but there is this sense among some people within Freemasonry that one of the, like, if you're paying $100 per year, so let's say you have your Netflix account, which costs you, let's say, $250 a year, and your Masonic lodge dues, which cost you $100 per year. At the end of a night of, at the end of the day, when you're done work, what are you going to be more likely to do? Watch Netflix or attend your Masonic lodge meeting? Well, if you're paying more for Netflix, you're going to be more desirous to take advantage of it because you're paying $250 a year for that. So you're going to be more interested in using it. Whereas when it comes to your Masonic lodge, that's my cat in the background, by the way. When it comes to your Masonic lodge, if you're paying $100 per year, you don't feel as much urgency to attend meetings and take advantage of it because you're paying less for it. So it's less relevant and important to you. So a lot of Masons have argued if we increase the price, if we increase the cost of dues, we are more likely to get more Masons attending because now they'll feel like, I'm paying so much for this, I need to take advantage of it. The more you're willing to pay for something, the more you're willing to sacrifice for it. And by the same token, a lot of them argue as well that for those Masons who are just refusing to show up, who don't show up, but continue to pay their dues because they're so cheap, jacking up the price will force them to finally make a decision and kind of poop or get off the pot, shit or get off the pot, right? Now you're saying you still want to be a Mason, we're not going to make it so easy for you. And I would agree with that. I think that that's a fair point as well. That's a good point as well. Well, that's the model. I mean, some Masonic lodges have moved to a model of kind of the same approach as Netflix in that it's automatic. So the money is automatically taken from your account every year, right? It just is automatic withdrawal. And I think in some cases, the logic of that is the same as the logic of kind of those streaming services where you just forget you've had it. And so every month you're paying for something and not using it because you forget about it. But I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't want brethren to just pay to not, to forget they're a Mason in point of fact. I think at the very least, requiring them to send a check, send an Eve transfer, pay in cash. I think requiring that at the very least, what it does is it reminds them they're a Mason and maybe encourages them to come out to at least one meeting in a year to pay their dues if they're paying by cash. I don't know though. It's tough to say. But that's the same model that gyms use, right? How many people have gym memberships and never actually use them? They always plan to do it next year. Well, for me, I'm not putting my feet anywhere, but yes, Dad, it is easier to stay home with your feet than dress up and go to with your feet up than to stay home and go to a meeting. That is very much the case. Which, and again, it's very hard. It's very hard to figure out what the thing you do to combat that is, right? I'm sure there are ways, and I'll talk about some of them, at least in my experiences, but it is incredibly tough to do that. I think most people would agree. That couch is always going to be very comfortable. That television is always going to be very inviting. So, by the way, the Nigerian Nightmare, may I suggest that you look at getting yourself Tubi? TUBI. You can sub for it and it's completely free. And it's a great streaming service. Just do Gen Z stuff. That's clearly what we need to do. Would Gen Z even be old enough to be Masons? To be a Mason, you have to be at least 18 in the States, 21 in Canada. I'm trying to figure out what the age is. Like, what is Gen Z? Yes, and you can't do anything about the weather. Tubi's the best. It's free and it's awesome. Okay, so I guess 22 you could join then. You're 22 years of age. So, yes, we'll start saying 6, 7 more. Maybe we'll create a lodge 6, 7 or a lodge of internet memes, a lodge LMAO or something, or a lodge LOL just to use the slang. Hanging out, waiting to see who's going to join. Once again, please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. The first hour of streaming, I just hang out, wait to see who jumps in the chat, who wants to say hello. The second hour, I have more specific topics. Well, there is no bloodline within Freemasonry, right? So, I mean, there are people who join and have no familial connection to Freemasonry. They're the first of their family to join, at least to their knowledge. There are some who join whose great grandfather, grandfather, father, and them were Freemasons. It really just depends on who the brother, like if you want to join, but it's not about bloodlines. Um, and yeah, I mean, you don't have to join a lodge in which you had a family member. Once you join, if you know if your uncle lives in the same town as you do, and there's only so many Masonic lodges there, you may be able to track down which lodge he was a member of. Even if you don't join, you could probably track down which member of a lodge or which lodge he was a member of. Well, I think so. I think the age should be tied into whatever the drinking, this is just my opinion, whatever the drinking age is in your state or town or province. That way, if your lodge is having a social function or a social event or wants to go out to a bar or wants to have a dinner with drinks, you can invite everybody to take part. So the drinking age in Ontario is 19, so I think it should be 19, the age to enter. But that's just my opinion. I think lower is better, right? I think 18 is preferable to 21. Um, but that's just my humble opinion. Well, Skull and Bones is a different organization, right? Skull and Bones is a fraternity out of, I think it's out of Yale, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think George W. Bush was a member. Well, there you go. By the way, everybody watching this, please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and thank you all so much for being here. I hope everybody is doing well. Sure. Nigerian Nightmare. I think that's human nature, right? We all have beef with our friends and our family and our brethren. So long as you can keep working together, that's what matters, right? Um, right. So long as we can all keep working together, then fights will happen, conflicts will happen. Actually, Grand Lodges, a lot of them have started conflict resolution courses because it seems like the conflicts between or amongst brothers are increasing. Although, in my suspicion, it's always been that way. I think I've heard stories of Masons. Oops, sorry about that. I've heard stories of Masons getting into fights with one another, decades ago, and those. It's just human nature. It can be about anything, right? It can be clashes of personality. clashes of opinion when it comes to Freemasonry. Um, you can debate how you want to proceed with the lodge and how you want the lodge to move forward. Um, what would make someone not fit the criteria of being a Mason? Well, I mean, the at the start, right, the questions is going to be, do you believe in a supreme being? So you can't be an avowed atheist. Do you believe in a supreme being? And are you of the correct age? So in Ontario, or over the correct age. In Ontario, you have to be over the age of 21. A lot of places in the States, you have to be over the age of 18. When most people think of Mason, they think of it in the fraternal side of the order, which means most people will think of it as you have to be a man, although there are orders for women Freemasons as well. Um, After that, it gets a bit more nebulous. You have to be of good character. What that means, the lodge has to decide for itself. You can't be, when you're a Mason, you can't commit a crime and remain. Usually that's a Masonic offense. Before you join, if you commit a crime but turn your life around and have made amends and done what you can to make better decisions, served your time, whatever it is, you can still potentially join. But the three kind of basic elements that make someone fit to be a Freemason would be over the appropriate age, believe in a supreme being, and to join the fraternal side, you are a man. Um, sure. I mean, it's unfortunate, but Freemasons are human beings. And because Freemasons are human beings, everything exists there, right? Racism, um, any negative aspect of a human being is going to be found within a Freemason. Hopefully, though, well, also by the same token, all of the good stuff within Freemasonry, um, or all of the good stuff that human beings have within them, is also found within a Mason. And I think that Freemasonry, if it's done right and if it's done correctly, um, it fosters the better aspects of our nature, like tolerance, kindness, friendship, and suppresses or mitigates the more negative sides of ourselves, whether it be um, prejudice, racism, hatred. I think Freemasonry, when it's done right, it makes humans better, it makes the world better. Um, uh, yes, you have to be 18 or 21. I think some jurisdictions, the age is 19. It just depends on the jurisdiction. In Ontario, you have to be over the age of 21. In Michigan, you have to be over the age of 18. Um, in other jurisdictions, it's whatever age they decide. Um, well, I mean, I hope there are not any white exclusive lodges. That would make me very sad. I have heard of them. I don't think they should be recognized. I would never be there or attend a lodge that excluded people or had a single race membership. Um, I would not attend, right? Because even Prince Hall, a lot of people don't realize Prince Hall takes white members and Hispanic members and Asian members and everything, right? So I would not want to visit a lodge that was exclusive to a single race because that is not what Freemasonry is about. Uh, More than 33 degrees. I mean, in Memphis, Mizraim, there's up to I think 99 degrees, something like that. But the thing you need to keep in mind is, again, we're talking about degrees. The 1 degree that matters is the 3 degrees that matter are the first, second, and third degree. Once you're at the third degree, you're as high as you can go. Anything else is kind of a specialization within or as part of the third degree. What's the bool? I've never heard of that before. It's a round loaf of bread, apparently. Am I missing something? Oh, is it a African American fraternity? I've never heard of it before. I think I just looked it up on Google quickly. I think you're maybe thinking about Prince Hall, C71. But Prince Hall was founded by a gentleman named Prince Hall. He was denied admittance into a lodge in Boston in 17, I think it was 1775. So eventually, through the Grand Lodge of England, he started his own Masonic lodge called African Lodge Number One, and eventually expanded it to create Freemasonry for African Americans and Black men in United States, Canada, and around the world. But I've never heard of the Boule before. I don't think that has anything to do with Freemasonry, at least to my knowledge. Um, and welcome. If you are just joining us, we're here chatting about Freemasonry. Please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and if there's anything you want to talk about, Boule or Bully. Um, I have not. Um, I mean, I've had plenty of pictures taken with the I've had plenty of pictures taken um in my Masonic regalia. It's not really called an outfit. Usually it's called regalia. Um Sometimes at public events where we have permission, sometimes after a lodge meeting, whatever it might be, and those are on social media, which is why you should remember to follow me on social media. You can see my Masonic regalias therein. That joke spans 300. Oh, Michael Moore with the jokes. Um, that would probably get more Gen Z. With the aprons, yeah, I mean, I think some people do respond very well, very often to regalia, to aprons, right? That is 100% the case. To uniforms, I should say, because uniforms they provide or they indicate or provide the appearance of strength, of uniformity, of cohesion, of teamwork. Um, our regalia is not nearly as fancy as not nearly as fancy as what you find in the Navy SEALs. That's for sure. I don't know if there's prayers for peace per se. I wouldn't even use the term prayer as a general rule. There are invocations. Um, Within Freemasonry, is the term we use, and the chaplains will usually be the one to give the invocation. Um, but it's usually an invocation meant to encourage our Grand Lodge, or meant to encourage either our membership or our candidates, within whatever work they're doing to promote the craft or to advance themselves within the craft. Oh, that's a good question, but very small Nigerian nightmare. I've been a Mason for 20 years. I've seen 2 rejections, so you can take that for whatever it's kind of worth. So I don't know what you mean by black hat and white hat. I've been told there are Luciferians within Freemasonry. I've never met one. There are no Satanists within Freemasonry, to my knowledge. I think I've shared this story before, but at one point, I received a phone call from somebody who expressed an interest in joining Freemasonry, and he explained that he was a Satanist. And so I asked to we got some coffee. I talked to him about what Freemasonry is and how it operates, and based on that, he decided he did not want to join because he felt it was in contradiction with his beliefs as a Satanist. So I guess you can take that for whatever it's worth. I don't know if it would be impossible for Satanists to join Freemasonry or not, but I've never met one. And based on what I was told, what Freemasonry stands for is the opposite of what Satanism stands for. So I remember my dad went to a lodge. Well, he might have gone to a lodge to visit, right? He could have gone to a lodge to visit his brethren, or to not sorry his brethren, but just to visit to learn more about it. Maybe he got invited to a dinner. Very often, if someone's interested in joining, before they actually have initiation, they'll invite them out to some dinners, some family events, get to know them better, which is a really important thing, by the way. And it also gives, though, the applicant a chance to learn more about Freemasonry and decide if he wants to attend or not, and become a member. So maybe your father went to a few meetings, um, went to a dinner, went to grab coffee, and just decided it wasn't for him, which is perfectly fine, right? A lot of people make that decision, and Freemasonry is not for everyone. Just like music might be for everyone, but a particular song won't be, right? Everybody may like music, but some people like country, some people like rock, some people like hip hop. In the same way, civic organizations and fraternal organizations are for everyone. However, that doesn't mean Freemasonry is for everyone. Maybe they'd be happier with the Elks, with the Moose, with the Rotary Club, with a knitting club, whatever it might be. Well, that's very nice, Chris Hansen. Good for him. Could have been that. Could have been that for sure. But still, I hope that he, at the very least, when he went, I hope that he had a good time. Whether he decided to join or not, I still hope he had a good dinner and good time with his brethren, or with his friends, I should say. Um, but sometimes it's better to just not join. There's nothing wrong with going to a Masonic event and deciding it's not for you. Better to decide that before you join than to join and realize after the fact, after you've already spent the money to join and after you've already taken the time to go through your degree. Um, I have no I have no idea what that means. Warning signs. I feel like you're talking about Cobra Kai, which is a great TV show. What are the benefits of Freemasonry? Uh, well, Chris, it really is a personal thing, right? Nice, Courtney. I'm happy for you. Because everybody gets a different benefit from being a Freemason. Like for me, my grandfather on my dad's side passed away before I was born, so I never got to meet him. However, being a Freemason makes me feel closer to him. But that's a unique thing. That's personal to me. It's very different with, say, another like for others, they could be joining because they want to meet people. Maybe they're new to the country, new to the community, want to make some friends. In doing so, joining Freemasonry. Maybe they want to work on their public speaking. Maybe they like the idea of being part of a historical society, right? All of that stuff are benefits within Freemasonry. Um, and all of that stuff, again, everybody gets their own. Some people, they appreciate it for the sake of the social safety net. Um, right? Which is, that you're part of a group that if you lose your job or if you need assistance, they have financial supports for you. They can give you benevolence, it's called. So those are just some of the benefits. But I think the biggest benefit within Freemasonry, the most important benefit within Freemasonry, is it gives you the opportunity to fight for a better world, um, which is not nothing to sneeze at. Um, Warning signs. So we do not serve Lucifer. Freemasons do not serve Lucifer. Freemasons do not serve any any religious figure or icon. Freemasonry is not a religion. I mean, the punishment for if you were to kill another brother would be the same punishment as if you were to kill anyone, right? You'd certainly be kicked out of Freemasonry, but then you should go to jail. Whatever the civil penalties are therein, um, are the criminal punishments. Uh, in many different states, you can actually. A lot of states have Masonic license plates. Do the men and women Masons? I mean, sometimes they'll hold events together. They often do in United Grand Lodge of England in London. They do a lot of things together, which is really cool. In the case of Ontario, there was an event a couple years ago where it was put on by the fraternal side of Freemasonry. However, they also had the Order of Women Freemasons present. And then obviously Eastern Star is regularly doing things with Freemasons. So, well, then what I'd say is, first of all, if you're joining Freemasonry, um, you know, 99% of the time, it's not going to be an issue at all because it's going to be the fraternal side. It's going to be exclusively male. However, you know, if that 1%, they're doing something with Eastern Star or they're making contact with the Order of Women Freemasons, you can just avoid those meetings or that part of Freemasonry. But honestly, it really wouldn't be an issue. Like for the first 10 years of my first 20 years, well, not that many. The first 16 years of my Masonic career, I never had any interaction with Eastern Star. Never had any interaction with the youth groups like Rainbow for young girls. Uh, it was eventually I started to have more interaction with them because I became more involved with Freemasonry overall. But it really won't be an issue for you. Well, there are. I don't like to use the term prayers. Linking Atlas, that's not the term we would use. We have what's called invocations. Which is a different thing than a prayer, right? An invocation is non-denominational. But they are special in that they relate to what we're doing at the time, whether it be opening a lodge, closing a lodge, or holding a degree, or holding a special event. I am not married to anyone other than I have my cat, my wonderful, excellent cat. So I don't know if that counts. I consider myself a professional traveler. Um, you know, and I think we as Freemasons do have a responsibility to travel. I think it's one of the most important things within Freemasonry is that we travel. But keep in mind, travel doesn't have to mean, you know, going overseas like I've been lucky enough to do. Travel can mean your lodge meets on a Friday, but there's another lodge in your town that meets on a Monday. You go to the lodge that meets on a Monday and you visit with them. It can even mean, you know, maybe going to the same building you always attend lodge in, but on a different night of the week when a different lodge is present. Like traveling is one of the most valuable things you can do for your Masonic experience and to learn more about Freemasonry and to grow within the craft. So make sure you're traveling. Travel, travel, travel. It's very important. We're going to wait another 5 minutes. Then I'm going to start talking about things I think we can do within Freemasonry to make our lodge meetings more interesting and more exciting. There's a few different things. I'll just give you my opinions on them for whatever it's worth. But I do want to wait, see who else joins. Please, if you are new to the stream, take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I hope not, because I've got a million of them. And actually, me and some Masonic brothers are going together to get more tattoos on December 20th at December 20th at noon. So if you get the chance and you're in Windsor, get in touch with me. Even Michael Moore, if you're still there, you can make it over the border. You're welcome to join us for some tattoos. It'll be a lot of fun. Um, just across the border. We're actually probably going to be getting breakfast first at probably Time Restaurant. He is a Mason. Actually, interesting. He's a Mason who became a Mason on site, which is very rare. It usually doesn't happen that you can become a Mason on site. Uh, Joe Biden may have been made a Mason on site. There's debate about that. But yeah, Shaquille O'Neal was made a Mason on site. Prince Hall, if I recall correctly, the Grand Lodge of I forget where to come to think of it. Yeah, so normally, and this is very rare, and you should never expect it to happen, by the way, just for the record. But normally, the process to be a Mason is you have to, you approach them, you express your interest. There's, you meet with them, they meet with you, you maybe attend events with them, whatever it might be, right? You get sponsored, there's a vote, there's a whole process, and you become a Freemason. But in some jurisdictions, it's possible if the Grand Master of that jurisdiction feels like you have done a sufficient amount to, for the community, for the world, feel like you've done enough to, contribute to the community, you're a distinguished person, whatever it is, the Grand Master can make you a Mason on site. Only person can do that is the Grand Master. And he can't kind of do it. He can't just call you and be like, you're a Mason on site. He actually has to meet with you and see you. Right. So if you get an email from somebody saying, like, I'm the Grand Master, I'm making you a Mason on site, that's not how it works. It actually has to be on site. It has to see you. It has to be in person. And honestly, there's a lot of debate about whether it's actually possible or not to make somebody a Mason on site, and whether it's legitimate or not. I consider it to be legitimate so long as the jurisdiction allows it. Saw some Masonic lodges upon my travels. Good. Please do. Yes, whenever you're traveling, take some pictures. It's wonderful to have. Yeah, different jurisdictions have different rules on it. There are some who argue. I think Chris Hodap, I could be mistaken, but I think Chris Hodap of Freemasonry for Dummies argues that actually it's not legitimate anywhere. It's against the ancient charges, I think he says. I don't know. I'm already a Master Mason. So there's 3 ways to take your question, Nigerian, because Master Mason means 3 different things. There's Master Mason, as in you're a 3rd degree Mason. That I am, right? I'm already a 3rd degree Master Mason, been one since 2008. Because I'm a Master Mason, what it means is I can hold an office in my lodge, and I can fully participate in all kind of aspects of the lodge itself. Then there's Worshipful Master. So to be a Worshipful Master, you must first be a Master Mason, and then you get voted on, to be the Worshipful Master of the lodge. That means you're responsible for running and governing the lodge for the year. And the last is being the most worshipful Grand Master, which is a very important one as well. That is where you are responsible for the jurisdiction as a whole. Do you have to make an offering? I mean, you have to offer your time, which is no small thing, and you have to offer your attention, I suppose. But if you're asking offering in terms of money or finances, then no, right? Eventually, you'll have to pay membership dues, yearly dues, but not at the start. At the start, it's an application process. They should never be asking you for any money before you've met with them, been sponsored, and had a vote taken on your application. If the first thing they do is ask you for an offering or for money, then it's almost certainly a scam. So you need to keep that in mind. I have no idea. I mean, I don't think so. I'm already a pain in the ass being a worshipful master. I can only imagine how much of a pain in the ass I would be as a most worshipful grandmaster. Welcome, Niha Official 73. Thank you for being here. Please hit like. Please hit subscribe. I hope you're doing well. Let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. Yes. Brother Michael Moore says, for a longest time within Freemasonry, there wasn't, I mean, I joined in 2007, so I remember these days. There was an unfortunate habit of somebody comes and knocks on the door, says, I want to be a Freemason, and you just let them join, right? You give them an application, you get two people to be their sponsor, whether they know them or not. You vote on it, you do a perfunctory examination. Maybe a couple of guys go talk to him, three guys go talk to him. They automatically vote favorable, and then the rest is history. In the last 10 years or so, Grand Lodges have really been pushing against that and really been pushing that we as members spend more time getting to know our brothers. Or not our brothers, but our applicants, excuse me. Take them out to events, to coffee, to dinners, to barbecues. Don't rush to bring them in. Let us get to know them and let them get to know you and your lodge. It's better for everybody. And I support that approach. Okay, so Texas, I don't know which jurisdictions allow it and which jurisdictions don't. Well, South Carolina, Prince Hall, South Carolina allows it. I know that. Beyond that, I'm not as sure. So I personally have no issue with being a Mason on site. Really, it's up to the jurisdiction and how they feel is best to approach it. I can understand some benefits to it, though. It hasn't been secret for a while, warning signs. The whole idea of Freemasonry as being secret is a misnomer. It really became secretive, I should say, in the 40s and 50s. Many cases because Freemasons were persecuted, for example, in Germany, as well as people in society men especially started to push back against this idea of institutions and targeting what they felt were institutions with conspiracy theories. And unfortunately, the solutions for Freemasons and Freemasonry, they decided the best thing to do was to push back or pull away from that as opposed to pushing back. And also keep in mind, this channel is about Freemasonry because it's what I love to talk about, but this is not an officially sanctioned Masonic channel. This is me talking, giving my own opinion. So some Grand Lodges are doing official podcasts and official YouTube streams. Some aren't. But this isn't about me being desperate for anything other than wanting to talk about the things I love and the thing I love, which is Freemasonry. He was a Freemason. It's always possible. I mean, if they were to try to shut me down, I would just admit and keep doing it because I think this is more important in terms of a way to grow Freemasonry than anything else. But I don't think they will. I mean, I don't know who they are. I know some Grand Lodges are concerned, not just like in general, are concerned about people going online, talking about Freemasonry, possibly saying something incorrect or giving bad information. But I think in 2025, we just have to accept that this is the risk we take. Washington did own slaves. Many Freemasons have owned slaves throughout history. I mean, many Freemasons were also slave abolitionists. I mean, the founding fathers, between 9 and 11 of them were Freemasons in America, and I think most of those 9 probably owned slaves. I mean, Freemasons are humans, so every good thing that exists within humanity has existed within Freemasonry. However, not every not so good thing. I do think, and one thing I will say, many Freemasons were actually at the leading edge of slave abolition and were against slavery and fought against it. So, to their credit, Prince Hall is a great example of that, one of the leaders for racial equality and the abolition of slavery. Yes, Duke Ellington, the jazz singer, was a Freemason. Um, so, warning signs. What is it? I mean, when it comes to Freemasonry, where do you get your information from as to what Freemasonry is and how Freemasonry operates? Are there any channels you watch? Are you subscribed to this channel? And if not, can you please subscribe to this channel? It would be much appreciated. Yeah, you're going to find all of the best and all of the worst parts of humanity within Freemasonry, right? Yeah, and I think again, there was this effort in the 50s and 60s to kind of pull away from the spotlight. But throughout most of its history, Freemasonry was very open. That's why our buildings are called Masonic temples, because we want people to know where we meet, right? If we were truly a secret society, we would, call our buildings the secret building where we don't talk about what happens within the building and no one is allowed to enter and don't ask what this is. So, yeah. It's the mode of recognition. Yeah. Dro del Camp. Okay, that's awesome. Well, Dro de Camp, I hope that you'll check me out on Medium, where I write about Freemasonry. I hope that you'll share this stream, like, comment on videos. That is how you help the channel grow, right? It's interaction. That is the key. That's also, by the way, there's a parallel with that and Freemasonry. When people ask what is the key to making your lodge strong, it's your interaction with the lodge. It's how much and how well and how often you interact with the lodge. A million, members on a piece of paper, if 30 or 40 of them are showing up and that's it, then it's not that helpful, right? It's not just about being a name, it's about, our member, it's about being active. It's like this. I mean, I'm grateful for every one of my 2,924 subscribers, and I'm grateful for them all. However, it's the subscribing along with the commenting, sharing, liking, super chats, whatever it might be. That's what really helps the channel grow long term. Um, and that's true for every organization that I think, exists. It's ultimately about engagement more so than anything else. And there are some Masons who disagree, right? Chuck Dunning, for example, great Mason, great dude out of Texas. For him, it's really about the initiatic experience um, and the individual. And I think there's something to be said. No two people will practice Freemasonry exactly the same way. There may be Masons who, like, let's say your dad was a Mason, your grandfather was a Mason, and you decide you want to be a Freemason because you want to feel closer to your family, to your father. And so what you do is you join a lodge, you get a card that says you're a member of this lodge that your dad was, and that's enough for you, and that makes you happy, and you never go to another lodge meeting. You just pay your dues because you want to consider yourself a member of this thing, to be close to your family history. I mean, if that makes you happy, I guess who am I to say you're doing it wrong? um What I will say though is if you want to actually make your lodge better, if you want to ensure that your lodge considers, your lodge is around for the next 50, next 100, next 200 years, whatever it is, if you want those things, then you need to take certain steps. You can't expect your lodge to continue if you're never showing up, right? Because if you're not showing up, that means other people are allowed to not show up. And if others are allowed not to show up, the work doesn't get done and the lodge goes dark. So if just being a Mason and having a card in your wallet makes you happy and you're not really concerned about the longevity or success of your lodge, then so be it. Who am I to say you're doing it wrong? But if you want your lodge to sustain itself and even to grow and to reach its potential, then I would say there are actually right ways to be a Mason, right and wrong ways to be a Mason. Um, yeah, I mean, as Brother Michael Moore says, right, there have been many times throughout history where it's been disadvantageous to be a Freemason in a particular country, certainly in Nazi Germany, um, in the Middle East. And, having modes of recognition means I can recognize a brother. So let's say I'm traveling to a country, like I was recently in Dubai, beautiful country. The little I saw of it, I mostly saw the airport, to be fair. Freemasonry is not allowed in Dubai. I mean, I can be a Freemason elsewhere. I can't, start a Masonic lodge in Dubai. But let's say there's 2 or 3 of us traveling. We're all Masons. I can recognize them. Right? It's one of those things where it helps me meet brethren around the world, either brethren who live in a certain place or if we're both traveling through. Um, but it's very important that you be able to recognize your brethren. I always said, though, more than that, what the modes of recognition are really, it's a family recipe, right? No different than anything else. And a family recipe, the reason you keep it private is not because there's anything nefarious in the recipe. It's not like, oh, you're using walnuts and I'm using pecans or something, and that's evil. Rather, by keeping the family recipe private, it maintains the bonds of brotherhood between the membership in the same way. Sorry, keeping the recipe private, what it does is it maintains the familial bonds between past and future generations of the family. If everybody knows your family recipe, then you're not going to be that connected to your grandmother. Within Freemasonry, if everybody knows the modes of recognition, then the consequence of that is going to be, the bonds of brotherhood are less strong. I'm going to be right back in a moment. I need to get myself some water. I am thirsty. Don't worry, I'm still here, though. I'm not going too far. Okay, I'm back. Welcome. If you're just joining us, please take a moment. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I hope you're doing well. Let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. They can be positive, negative, or neutral. I still love to hear them. And don't forget about my 24-hour live stream coming up December 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll go from December 21st at 2 p.m. to December 22nd at 2 p.m. So I hope that you will check those out. Oops. Hold on just one sec. Sorry. There we go. And sorry, what if they are but never said anything? What do you mean? Sorry, Chris. Do you mean like what if they're a Mason but never said they were a Mason? I mean, then you wouldn't know, right? And if they don't give you the modes of recognition, then you would never know. The opposite, though, is also true. Just because someone says they're a Mason, it doesn't necessarily confirm that they are. You have to be really careful. I always give this advice to people on stream. Just because someone has a ring, has a pin, has a coin, has whatever it is, that doesn't automatically mean they're a Freemason. You still have to do your due diligence. We're going to give it a bit more time. We're going to wait to see who else joins. Nam. I'm going to just call you Nam. We did not. I can very confidently say we did not. We as Freemasons are taught to be good citizens. Flighting anywhere with anything illegal would not be the definition of being a good citizen. That's for sure. So I'm very sorry to disappoint you, but Nam, I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. I'm going to start talking about my main topic in another 20 minutes or so. So let's give it a bit of time. Let's see who else joins. Please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. Can anyone become a Freemason? No, not anyone. So the usual answer, first you have to be over the correct age. In Ontario, you have to be over the age of 21. Most places in this state, it's have to be over the age of 18. You have to believe in a supreme being. That does not mean, God as in Christian or Muslim. You can be Christian or you can be Muslim, you can be Jewish. You can be like me. I don't recognize any particular faith, but I believe in a supreme being. You can be indigenous, Hindu, Sikh. So you have to believe in a supreme being. And to join the fraternal side of Freemasonry, you have to be a man. Beyond that, generally speaking, you should be of good character. You need to have a sufficient amount of money to pay the yearly dues, but they can be as low as $40 per year and as high as $500 per year. It just depends. Robert Jeffrey, please hit like and subscribe. Thank you for being here. Your uncle was a Shriner. Okay. So to be a Shriner, you must first be a Freemason. So thank you so much for being here. Which religion is the most prominent within? That's a good question. I would say by default, I don't know for sure, but I would say by default, Christianity. I haven't done like an official study on it, but within my travels, I would say Christianity is the most prominent, followed by actually the Muslim faith would be the second most prominent, at least that I've seen. Then Judaism, then a lot of Masons like me who are, again, I believe in a supreme being, but I don't necessarily follow any particular faith. Nam, do I know any? I do. I know one Hindu Freemason. I'm told that there are more, but I know one Hindu Freemason. Really cool dude. Actually, let me rephrase that. I knew one Hindu Freemason. Sadly, he passed away, but he was a cool dude. Everybody liked him. Just don't want to let this fall. Always wires and stuff everywhere I got to deal with. So, Nam, how did you come across my stream? Were you searching for Freemasonry? Were you scrolling? I do appreciate you being here very much. Like I said, hit like, hit subscribe, consider a super chat, just 99 cents. And Robert Jeffrey, same thing. Okay, cool. Well, welcome. I do these streams every Monday through Friday, 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. And I chat about Freemasonry. So, during the 1 a.m. streams, I usually don't have any specific topics. 1 p.m. streams, I usually have specific topics. Today, what you can do to make your lodge meetings more interesting. But this can also apply to people who are part of churches or other community groups. Really, just a way to make your lodge more interesting. Because I think we in Freemasonry should never be afraid to try new things, um, and try different things. I know many Muslim Freemasons. Yeah, I know many. Certainly, it's probably most prominent in Morocco, which is a Muslim majority country where Freemasonry is actually quite well established. Jordan, it's kind of a little bit in Jordan, like the culturally, it's kind of frowned upon, but there are still Masonic lodges therein. Um, in North America, I've known several though Muslim Freemasons. Well, so I mean, statistically, it's unlikely, right? Because when you're talking about membership, when I'm talking about Freemasonry, usually I'm talking about the fraternal side of Freemasonry, right? Which is exclusively male lodges. So you would need, I mean, you know, gay men are already a smaller percentage of the population, relatively speaking. You need to get two of them in a lodge together. I'm sure it has happened in the past. I mean, I know of several gay Masons. Well, when I say several, I've known four. All of them are actually married, but their husbands decided not to join Freemasonry. So I don't know. I honestly wonder what that would be like, just because I think for so many men, one of the really attractive qualities of Freemasonry is it's the third space. And the third space is a meaning, it's a space away from family, away from work. So much of our lives, right, within kind of the day to day is consumed by our work and our family. Having that third space you can go to, which is separate from those two things, and can give you some distance from it and a chance to recharge, can be so incredibly important that I'm not sure. Even if my suspicion is, even if you had a gay couple, both of whom wanted to be Freemasons, my suspicion is they'd probably want to join separate lodges, um, just so they can maintain that third space. I do know of one. I do know of actually one couple. It's a male Freemason and a female Freemason. The guy is a member of Grand Lodge of Canada in Ontario, and his partner, his wife, is a member of the Order of Women Freemasons. So it does happen. And I mean, we're allowed to talk with whomever we would like, right? Grand Lodge, no group, including Grand Lodge, can tell me who I can and cannot talk to. What they can say though is who is and is not allowed on within a official meeting. So when I go to have an official lodge meeting, I can't have a member of the Order of Women Freemasons during the tiled meeting. But I can talk to them before and after, right? I can talk to whomever I so choose. Arume, come to Islam, brother. Arume1, thank you for being here. I hope that you will hit the like and subscribe button. I would very, very much appreciate it. I mean, I will say of Freemasonry, it welcomes men of all different faiths. Christian, Judaism, and the Islamic faith. By the way, Arume, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. I mean, I wish, when you say to Freemasons focus more on buildings design, to the extent that we are still creating our own buildings or building our own buildings, they definitely need to, think about how it's set up. Like our lodges are set up in certain directions. East and west are very important directions. North and south are very important directions. Right, all that stuff is incredibly important and matters a lot. But as Michael Moore says, it's more symbolic than practical. But I will say the symbolic, like the reason we always have the worshipful master sitting in the east and the senior warden sitting in the west, it's symbolic more so than anything else, right? And it represents certain important metaphorical lessons, which we talk about in our openings. Although I will say, during the 1920s, when Freemasonry, when our numbers were absolutely exploding, many Masonic lodges built their own buildings to own outright instead of renting space. And a lot of them were actually state of the art when it came to things like building design. There's a newspaper article that talks about my home building, the Windsor Masonic Temple, which talks about its state of the art heating system. The Detroit Masonic Temple also had state of the art heating and cooling systems for the time and state of the art building practices. So many building designs were actually pioneered by Masonic buildings in those 1920s, which was the period of great Masonic building or great Masonic building projects, if you will. Well, I mean, the master sits in the east, and if you ever kind of want to think about why, just think about from whence does the sun rise, right? It's metaphorical. Many times leaders are placed in the east in various groups, organizations, in some cases religions. The east takes on a very important meaning as the place where the sun rises, right? Very often light and the sun is represented as kind of illumination, knowledge, wisdom. That is true, linking Atlas. I mean, I know for 100% Freemasonry exists in India and Pakistan. Not so much sure about Afghanistan. There would have been, probably came in through United Grand Lodge of England. Suzumi, I'm a guy who's talking about Freemasonry. So please hit that like and subscribe button. I'd very much appreciate it. Also follow me on Medium if you can. Also follow me on social media. We're going to wait to see if Suzumi has anything to say before I. Freemasonry, what is that? Freemasonry is a civic organization. Um, it is primarily fraternal, although there is a side for women as well. But it's a social group or a social club that has existed for over 300 years that evolved from stone masonry guilds in the Middle Ages. Well, what I would say, linking Atlas, is the first thing, and actually Afghanistan as well, probably came through UGLE, is you can certainly go and meet with them and just express your interest in learning more about Freemasonry and why you love it. I would say it's a good idea to make contact first on uh, line, just so they know you're coming and they can prepare for you. You know, bring you a go out for coffee, whatever it is, right? But there are times like if you can't find anybody to contact and you happen to be there, certainly you're welcome to just go knock on their door and just say, you know, I'm interested in learning more about it. Honestly, it has happened. There's nothing like official, right? I've never seen any Masonic ritual or a proclamation that says if a Mason is traveling abroad, you have to give him accommodation. Having said that, I've, housed a few Masons in my home over the years who are traveling, just helped them save money on trips. Many Freemasons have let me stay with them, stay on their couch, stay in their homes while I'm traveling. If not staying with them, they've brought me dinner or food, or I've had lunch with them, bought me a meal. There are actually a couple lodges in the Philippines where the buildings actually have accommodations right within the Masonic Lodge building. So if you are traveling and you need a place to stay, you can stay in the lodge. Um, Interesting enough, Detroit, when the Detroit Masonic Temple was built, it was built with the expectations that they would add hotel rooms to it to allow traveling Masons to stay with them. Um, never came to pass, though. They never actually got them built. So I've taken advantage of accommodation from Masons. I've given accommodation. Many others have. It doesn't happen all the time. Not every Mason can do it, but if they can and they're so inclined, then certainly they would want to help out. Well, linking Atlas. I'm trying to think of how to put this. I think Freemasons do a lot to work on issues. Well, then I guess you would die, Nam. I mean, Freemasons aren't perfect. I've never met any serial killer Freemasons to my knowledge. But part of being a Freemason is, I think, we talk about charity, and one of the types of charity is charity towards like benefit of the doubt. If somebody's a brother, I know he's a brother. I'm going to give him a benefit of the doubt and hope that he's worthy of that title. I'll also say, no worries, Courtney. If you can't, you can't. Don't worry about it. What I also say is, I will say, and I understand, I'm a man. Freemasons are the fraternal side is men. I'm not going to necessarily have the same fears and worries that a woman may have inviting a stranger to stay with them. I understand that. Not to say I'm tough. I mean, if they wanted to, they could kill me in their sleep, or who knows. But I choose to be charitable with benefit of the doubt towards my brothers. So linking Atlas, I've talked about this before. When it comes to the idea of resolving issues, Freemasons, ultimately, we don't have tattoos. I mean, you can get a Masonic tattoo. We have modes of recognition, but I actually have a Masonic tattoo on my shoulder. But we want to be really careful, Nam. Just because somebody has a Masonic tattoo doesn't mean they're a Freemason. They may get it because they like the way it looks. They may not even know what it means. They just like the design and choose to get it. Or maybe that a family member was a Freemason, whatever it might be, right? You have to kind of sort that out. People oftentimes don't recognize, and part of that is our fault within Freemasonry for not talking about it, the ways that we, through invisibly, make society better or help resolve issues. For example, I've given this example before. I've known 2 Freemasons who, were it not for the lodge stepping in and providing benevolence, would have been homeless, right? So the lodge steps in, gives them money. That's actually a really big deal for a lot of different reasons, not just for those individuals, but for society. Because what it means is, let's say Freemasons weren't there to step in and resolve that issue. Now society needs to be involved to resolve the issue. That could mean it needs to be resolved by the brother has to get social assistance, welfare, disability. So that's an extra strain on that system. It could mean that the shelters need to be used, and that's one less bed at a homeless shelter, or a food bank needs to be used, or you have a person sleeping on the streets, which means now all of society has to deal with seeing somebody else sleeping on the streets. Maybe they turn to drugs or alcohol to deal with that, and now you've got addiction issues. And in one case, the brother had a family. So again, it's like now your family is dealing with it, and your family is on the street as well. And again, now society has to resolve that issue for the whole family. So, because people never saw what could have been because Freemasons stepped in, society doesn't realize what we resolved for them and how we resolved the situation for them, right? Which is really, really important to keep in mind. Freemasonry helps people's health. And again, it's an invisible issue in that because nothing happens, you don't recognize the benefit of it, right? Like the Surgeon General released a report 2 years ago that said the more lonely you are, the more lonely you are, the more likely you are to end up in the hospital, to have heart attacks, strokes, addiction issues. Because we in Freemasonry are there for each other, you're definitely not going to be lonely as a Freemason as you're active. You're less likely to be in the hospital, less likely to have a stroke, less likely to need medical interventions, which then saves those medical interventions for others. I think that's really important to keep in mind. So you're by definition, it's the same way you don't see many social safety nets and what they do to protect people, but they're incredibly valuable. Is it true? Roll the losing dice. Freemasons do not worship Lucifer. I think someone's been reading a little bit too much Albert Pike. Freemasons do not worship any religious figure. We in Freemasonry are not a religion. So it's not about worship. I mean, no roles directly. Right, World War II was political situation that evolved into war, that I would say necessary war to protect, to save the world from the evils of Nazi Germany. I think if Freemasonry had been stronger in Germany, maybe they would have provided a fight against Hitler and his ideology. There's a reason why Hitler outlawed Freemasonry when he came into power, and the Nazis did, right? Because Freemason ideology is opposed to Nazism, and stands in contrast to it. But I think maybe in some ways Masonic ideals played a role in the decisions that some leaders made. Who knows? Like Churchill, FDR, even Truman was a Freemason. There were Freemasons, who actually started Masonic lodges in concentration camps, which I thought, when you talk about in 2025, the challenges people have of going to lodge, and they'll say how hard it is to get out to lodge. Consider starting a Masonic lodge in a concentration camp and how hard and scary that must have been. So they did not. Freemasons don't finance any sides. Freemasonry is not a financial institution, nor does it finance things. Roll the losing dice. Please hit like and subscribe, though. I'd very much appreciate it. Freemason 357, to you as well, sir. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know how your day is going. I hope it's going well. I guess I would have to disagree with the premise of your question there. All the top people in government are not Freemasons. I've been a Freemason since 2007. I've traveled all around the world for Freemasonry. I continue to travel all around the world. The Philippines, Colombia, soon Colombia, the Philippines, Brazil, many others, England, all throughout the States. I've known some politicians who are Freemasons and some government officials who are Freemasons, but very few. Well less than probably 2%, if that. And always at the smaller level, like primarily city council level, never at the higher up level. I do not know what shadow people mean. I suppose by definition, if they are hiding in the shadows, I wouldn't see them because they wouldn't want me to see them. Hi, how have you been? I've been doing well, your local Spurs fan. I hope you're doing well also. Yes, it's incredibly sad. One of my goals is to visit the Holocaust Museum in Chicago. I keep on planning to do it. I never get around to it because I want to learn more about, if they have any information or artifacts or stories related to Freemasons specifically in concentration camps. Well, I'm the degree that matters. Roll the losing dice. I am a 3rd degree Master Mason. I'm also an 18th degree Scottish Rite, but I have attended and sat with and been involved with some 33rd degree Masons over the years, because normally when people ask that question, they're working off the assumption that there is the highest degree in Freemasonry, which is the 33rd degree, which is not the case. The highest degree in Freemasonry is the 3rd degree. Don't forget, like I was saying, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'm getting close to 3,000 subs, so I'd appreciate the help getting me there. This morning, I had the pleasure of attending Border Cities Lodge. I guess I shouldn't use the term attending since I'm the worshipful master, so it's kind of required that I be there, of presiding over Border Cities Lodge. But in the morning, before we did the Border Cities Lodge meeting, we had a really special event or events. We got together for coffee at the Windsor Masonic Temple Coffee Club, and we had a Christmas cookie contest. Thank you so much to my neighbor who baked the cookies for me. It was much, much appreciated. And we did a Tai Chi demonstration as well, which was really, really fun also. And that got me thinking, what other type of things can we within Freemasonry do to make our lodge meetings more interesting and more enjoyable? See, so 90th degree, there is no such thing as a 90th degree Mason. Bill Schnobelin is either, and I'm not saying which he is, he's either a liar or he was part of a what we would call a clandestine group, which means he's part of a group that called itself Masonic, but was not. Now, he may, thank you, Courtney. That's incredibly kind of you. Now, it is possible that he was what's called Memphis Mizrain, because some will say Memphis Mizrain went up to 99 degrees. However, that is not a recognized Masonic body in America or in Canada. It's actually clandestine. So it's no different than if I started my own Masonic group called Cameron's Masonic Group and created 100 degrees, right? It wouldn't necessarily mean anything. So you need to be really careful about that type of stuff. Right. So that got me thinking, what else can we do within Freemasonry to create a more enjoyable and a more fun lodge experience? Now, every jurisdiction is different as to what is allowed and as to what is not allowed when it comes to dispensation. So usually, and I'll speak for the Ontario perspective, the Ontario approach. If you want to do any type of special event outside of a regular meeting or a business, outside of a regular administrative meeting or a degree, you usually need to request dispensation. It costs you $5 to do so, and it's you asking permission to hold an official Masonic event. And it could be anything as small as a holiday Christmas contest, holiday Christmas cookie contest, to something as big as a Christmas banquet, a Christmas party, to a bowling night, to an educational seminar, etc., etc. Right? It's up to you to request dispensation. However, no, sadly, they did not. I shouldn't say sadly. My friend Michelle won the cookie contest, though. His sister technically won the cookie contest. So they're very good cookies from all. Everybody brought delicious cookies, for the record. So thank you so much for that. So everything, what else? And the reason why dispensation is so important, by the way, it's worth talking about this because for a lot of people, myself included, it can kind of seem like a pain in the ass. Like you don't want to. It's not even the money. It is $5. It's the time of like, do you really want to spend 20, 30 minutes completing a request to, for dispensation? It's important though, because Grand Lodge needs to know what our lodges are doing, what's going on. They need to know that for a few different reasons. First, they need to know we're not doing anything that could bring the lodge into disrepute. Let's say, for example, we within Freemasonry, let's say my lodge wants to hold a special event at a hall or a special location, and it we request permission. We want to hold a special banquet at 123 John Street, right? It turns out, let's say 123 John Street, they check it out. The building is owned by a group that's involved in criminal activities that we didn't know about. It gives Grand Lodge a chance to check to make sure what we're doing is not going to bring disrepute onto the craft, either purposefully or mistakenly. It also lets Grand Lodge know what we're doing, so it gives them ideas so they can proceed to do, to encourage other lodges to do the same thing. If a lodge is struggling, we can say to them, hey, just so you know, we hope that you will consider, Border Cities Lodge is the holiday Christmas cookie contest. Your lodge is struggling to get people out. We hope you will do the same, right? It gives brethren a chance to learn from others. And it lets Grand Lodge know what's happening and make sure you've crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's for insurance purposes. So if you're holding an event that involves alcohol and you don't request dispensation, not only if something bad happens, heaven forbid, there's an accident, not only could you be on the hook for it through liability, through insurance, but the Grand Lodge could be on the hook as well. So requesting dispensation is incredibly important. Having said that, once you do the request, there are so many different types of things that you can do. They can be as big as a full Christmas banquet with a band, with gifts for kids, with Santa Claus, with a movie, with hot chocolate, with draws, right? You can do that, and you can make it a thing where you invite not only the brethren, but the brethren, their wife, kids. Make it a whole family event, grandkids, aunts, uncles, right? Invite the whole family. You can do a Christmas cookie contest like we did this morning. I would suggest for that, if you're doing a Christmas cookie contest, make sure you are marking which, if any, cookies contain nuts or other allergens. So you're not putting anybody at risk of, an allergic reaction, which we did this morning. You can encourage physical activity. One thing I've always been talking about is that we as Freemasons have a responsibility to maintain our physical health and well-being as best as we can. That also means, however, we have a responsibility to ensure, if we're facilitating a lodge, to ensure that the lodge does things to encourage health. So this morning, not only do we have a Christmas cookie contest, we also had a Tai Chi presentation where we had 2 members of a local Tai Chi club come out together, show their Tai Chi movements, talk about the health benefits for them. And because a lot of our members are seniors, the benefits to it specifically or particularly for senior citizens. And a lot of the movements could be done in chairs. A lot of the movements could be done if limited mobility. We had a brother there who had suffered a stroke who was able to, do a lot of the movements and the activities. I think Smokey is back. Welcome back, Smokey. Thank you for being here. But also really make sure that you try to think outside the box. I've told this story before. It's one of my favorite stories. One of my favorite Masonic events ever was, or favorite Masonic educational activities was, it was in this lodge called Rose Lodge. They had an educational presentation, and instead of doing an educational presentation on the history of the United Grand Lodge of England or a study of Hiram Abiff, the brother, it was really cool. The brother brought a whole bunch of balloons as well as a pump for some of us who are short of breath. And he taught us all how to make balloon animals. I made a dog, which I gave to my neighbors. You might think that has nothing to do with Freemasonry, but I don't buy that. Because the brethren enjoyed it. It made them happy. One thing we're taught in Freemasonry is one of the most important things within Freemasonry is to try to be happy ourselves and encourage happiness amongst others. And, I remember the balloon animals. I enjoyed it, but everybody enjoyed it. It was like you were around a whole bunch of kids who were really enjoying spending time together, and got a little souvenir to bring home. So I guess my point is think outside the box. Think about what interests you. And if you think that others can, we're brothers. What interests one should interest us all. So, like Courtney, I know your lodge is smaller. I don't know if you make balloon animals, but if you did, you could do a presentation on how to make balloon animals. Or maybe you could lead them in a cooking demonstration. Like after your lodge meeting, everybody goes upstairs if you have a kitchen area and you all, bake cookies together or something, if you're a good cook. Or invite somebody from the community in for the same thing. You can do a soda pop tasting. You can do this is all about supporting local. Let's say you've got a local shop that creates local soda pop flavors. Maybe do a soda pop tasting, and the winning flavor gets, let's say cherry Coke is the winning soda pop flavor. Maybe give that as a gift to your district deputy grand master at his official visit. You could do an ice cream tasting. Same thing. You're supporting a local ice cream shop. You could invite, much love, Smokey. You could invite local artists to come in and do a painting session where everybody gets an easel, gets some paints, and they all, paint a picture led by a local artist. Don't do it in the lodge room. Obviously, you don't want to risk, getting paint all over the floor, but find a place that's free, put down a tarp, go to town. That gets the artist exposure. You can maybe give them a little bit of money. There are a million things that you can do to try to create a fun and enjoyable lodge experience. Do an outing, do an outdoor meeting, do something in someone's backyard. Again, you need to get dispensation. Have a pub night after your meeting. Do a trivia night, do a Masonic trivia night where you ask questions about Masonic trivia to see who's been, studying their work, who's been making that daily advancement in Masonic knowledge. Here in Windsor, every year, a Masonic lodge does the Salvation Army Christmas kettles. And they do a great job of it. It's a great way to get out in the community. They wear their shirts saying that they are Freemasons and part of, a lodge. So there are so many different things that you can do to create not only a more exciting meeting, but a more exciting lodge experience. And it's always possible to, end a meeting a little bit early. So if normally your meetings last an hour, but you want to have a special presentation, let's say you want to do the cooking class, you want to do a Tai Chi presentation, you want to do balloon animals. What you can always do is end your meeting a little bit earlier than you would normally, bring in the guest speaker, bring in the guest presenter. If he's not a Mason, go from there, or go from labor to refreshment for the same purpose, right? It's so important that we think about these things because when a Mason comes to a meeting, we are asking him to give up, you could argue, his most valuable and precious thing, which is his time. Even more so than the money it costs to be a Freemason, it's his time. And I think it's very important within that context that we try to create something unique and interesting at every meeting. I'll also say this, though, and this is really important to keep in mind. If you are a newer Freemason, or not even a newer Freemason, if you're a Freemason and you find the meetings boring, you're not that interested in them, you absolutely can and you absolutely should, speak up. Don't just rely on the master and the wardens to create an interesting lodge experience for you, right? You're as much a part of the lodge as anybody else. You have as much of a responsibility as anybody else when it comes to creating a more excitable and enjoyable lodge experience. So what that means is you have a responsibility to bring up what you want to see and make the suggestion. Um, hey, can we do balloon animals? Can we do a cooking course? Can we do a directed painting? Can we do Tai Chi? Can we start the meetings with some meditation? And by the exact same token, if you are, let's say, a worshipful master, let's say you're a past master, don't be one of those people who says, that's not how we used to do it, or that's not how we did it in my day. Listen to the brothers. They might have some really good ideas. And you never know the difference between listening to them and not listening to them. Yes, all is going well, Rondo. Thank you for being here. Could be they get discouraged and they decide they're either not going to make any more suggestions or they're just not going to show up anymore, right? Um, but yeah, again, anything from um, balloon animal presentations, directed cooking classes, a pub night, a Masonic trivia night, a Christmas cookie contest, an ugly sweater contest. That's one I've heard a few lodges doing where one meeting, they all show up in their best/worst ugly Christmas sweater. A Tai Chi presentation, maybe even start every meeting or start a meeting with a 2-minute guided meditation, right? That could go really well also. So there's a million things that can be done and that I hope that we will do. Um, if you have any suggestions, put them in the chat, either things that you've seen your lodge do or things you want to suggest to your lodge, or maybe you're part of a church community group. What have they done and what would you want to see them do? And let's give it a bit more time. Let's see who else joins. But it was a great morning. Thank you to everybody who took part, and a big thank you to my neighbor. I know I've got good neighbors because they were so kind as to cook or to bake cookies for me. How many people do you know, if you went to them, to your neighbor, and said, please bake me cookies, that they would agree to do so? And in fairness, they did come in second place, so that's not bad, all things considered. No worries, Smokey. I know you're usually working at this point in time, so I just appreciate you being here very much. And I'm very much looking forward to. That's one thing you can do if you're a Masonic Lodge in Minnesota, Minneapolis, if I recall correctly, and you are, do a donut tasting with Brother Smokey. Get some donuts from Smokey. Um, that's actually, now that I think about it, that's actually a really good idea. I know there's a lot of like artisan donut shops out there. It might be kind of fun to do a donut tasting at some point. You could try both savory donuts and sweet donuts. I agree. I think attendance is very important as well. So like I said, I'm becoming more accepting or resigned to the fact that you kind of can't set expectations on brethren. It really depends on what they want. So, for better or worse, like I said before, if a brother decides that he wants to, I don't know the term, decides, like, so let's say you have a man who his dad was a Mason and his grandfathers and great grandfathers were Freemasons, right? Maybe he decides, you know what, he wants to join a lodge to be closer to his family or to feel closer to his family. So he joins, he goes through the process, and now he's got a little card in his wallet, and that card says, that he's a Freemason and a member of the same lodge his family was. Maybe he decides he's never going to attend again. He doesn't really care if the lodge continues to exist or goes dark, for better or worse. He just goes, it is what it is. I have this piece of paper. I'm happy. The old me would have said he's doing Freemasonry wrong, and he's making a mistake, or he's hurting the lodge. And in some ways, I still think it's true, he's hurting the lodge. But if that makes him happy, who am I to say otherwise, right? What I will say, though, is if you're going to say that you care about the lodge, that you want the lodge to succeed, that you want the lodge to be important, or you want the lodge to grow, then attendance is very important, right? You kind of can't have it both ways. You can't say you care about the lodge and want it to grow or survive, but not show up to meetings, or show up to meetings late, or not pay your dues on time, right? So I've coming more resigned to, it has to start with what you want from Freemasonry, right? If you want your lodge to be a success and you're not showing up regularly, then you can say what you want, but that's not, your actions betray your motives, right? But if you're going to say, I just wanted to have the title of Freemason, I wanted to go through the initiation to feel closer to my family. I'm happy to support financially, but if Freemasonry ceases to exist, so be it. I guess who am I to say otherwise, right? But I will say, Courtney, I personally think if you say that you want the lodge to succeed, then attendance is absolutely vital. It's absolutely critical. Um, Google Ralph Harris and the Three-Legged Man. It might show up. Let me see if I can find Ralph Harris. I don't think he was. He could have been. I could be mistaken. Nam. I mean, there's been some bad dudes who've been Freemasons over the years. Freemasons are human beings, right? Um, and so within any organization, you're going to find some not so good people. I think I've always believed, and I still believe, that if you are following Masonic, Jake the Peg. Okay, if you are following Masonic philosophies, you are not going to be an O.J. Simpson. However, human beings are human beings. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to fall down. They're going to it's just human nature, unfortunately. I did slight research. There are many brethren who are blind. Actually, a lot of brethren who are blind, as they're advancing through the chairs, they're seeing eye dogs will get a collar and a collar with them, which I always thought was really, really cool. Kind of a really cool little thing. So, or guide dogs or service dogs. I remember seeing a Masonic lodge where they had all the collars set up for an installation, and there was, all these collars set up, and then next to it there was a little tiny collar and a little tiny apron that had a worshipful master's jewel on it, and that was going to the worshipful master's service dog. He wasn't blind, but he was disabled. He needed a service dog to help him kind of get around. And so, not only are you following the rules of the dog, of the worshipful master, you got to listen to the dog too. You have to obey both. I got no legs, and Jake the Peg has 3. That hardly seems fair to me at all. And by the way, I do have another Masonic meeting happening tonight. One of those um, two Masonic meeting days. The most I've ever done is 3 Masonic meetings in a day. Um, I almost got close to doing 4 Masonic meetings in a day and didn't quite, or Masonic events in a day and didn't quite make it. But that is my goal. It's just hard enough a car to get from one spot to another. It was in Chicagoland area, so I have no idea. I mean, Lee Harvey Oswald, right? Nam, I'm not one who believes in conspiracies, so I've never believed in conspiracy theories. I think they're actually toxic to the mind. So Lee Harvey Oswald, to my knowledge, shot JFK, as it should be. I mean, I think Freemasonry should be accommodating to a lot of different things, including all different abilities, whether you, like me, have no legs, have no arms, have no legs and no arms, whether you're blind, disabled in other ways, deaf, make it work, right? You have a responsibility as a Freemason to make things work. And as a Masonic Lodge, right? We can do a lot of things very well if we're willing to try and put effort in. The danger comes when we're not willing to try and we're not willing to put in the effort. I think that's where the true dangerous, where it becomes truly dangerous. So, but yeah, I mean, I've talked about this story before, I think, right? The reason why Freemasonry in Canada is accommodating, and in Ontario specifically, is accommodating to brethren such as myself, missing my legs, is because after World War I, a lot of veterans were returning from war and were missing limbs and were applying to join Freemasonry. And the they initially were being denied because at that time the rule was you could not join Freemasonry if you were missing limbs. Obviously, it's pretty I would say a perverse incentive, or just perverse in general, to have soldiers fight overseas to protect the country, lose their limbs in the process of that fighting, and then return home and be denied admittance into a civic institution. And Grand Lodge agreed with my assessment, and in the 20s changed it so you could join Freemasonry even if you were missing limbs. I was born this way, Nam, so I never had legs. I was born missing my legs. So it's not really as though I ever lost anything, right? And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. I think it's probably a lot harder if you lose your limbs in an accident, or lose your limbs later in life to cancer. You have to kind of relearn things. Never having them, it was relatively, it's relatively easy. Yes, considered, I mean, different people had different terms for it, right? Not every jurisdiction used the term moron. Some used the term, I forget, like simple, right? The idea was, and this, I mean, in some ways, this is still a thing, and it's a good thing. They have to know what they are joining, right? It's kind of like, in some ways, it's almost like getting a tattoo. I remember reading about or seeing a video about it was a woman, if I recall correctly, but an older woman. She was in her 40s, but she was she was a toddler, right? She had a type of disease where she was mentally very, very young. But every day she would go to this tattoo parlor and ask to get a tattoo. And every day, actually, what they would do is they would give her a tattoo, but they would use ink that like was washable. So it'd wash off at night, and then she'd come back the next day and ask for another one, right? Because obviously her mental capacity is such that she could not actually consent to getting a real tattoo. She wouldn't understand what that would mean. So when ancient, or when Masonic documents talks about not admitting a moron or somebody who is simple or whatever it is, what they really meant is they have to be able to understand what they're joining. Like, I have a family member who is in his 30s. He's a man, he's over the correct age. He may believe in a supreme being. I think he does. He kind of attends church, but with his family, right? Because mentally, he's a toddler, right? He's about 5 years of age. Um, he would not be able to join Freemasonry, not because we wouldn't want him to, just because he would not be able to understand what he's joining. Right? It wouldn't be fair to him to admit him because he wouldn't be able to understand what a fraternity is, what the society is, what the obligation he's taking, anything like that, right? Again, somebody who has, let's say, some type of severe brain injury and is almost in a vegetative state. Like, there are examples of people who, and you need to be really careful, who maybe are not mentally capable of making the decision to, let's say, join a Masonic group or join a club, join an organization, especially because within Freemasonry, we, have yearly dues. The last thing we want to be doing is taking, every year, taking money from someone, whether it's $40 to $100, right? Taking money from someone who doesn't understand what they're a part of. So, and I suppose in those cases, maybe it's possible that, like, if let's say this person, if their father was a Freemason and they have a child who has this condition where they're basically forever a toddler, whatever their physical age is, mentally they're always a child, but maybe the father, really wants their son to join. Uh, Maybe the father could give permission of some sort. I don't know. I've never been in that situation before. I don't know what I would do in that situation. It'd be hard to say, but yeah, we want to be respectful of the rights of people, and if they are not capable of understanding what they're joining, then we shouldn't admit them. The one reason to admit them would be to take their money, and that would be wrong, right? Um, Thank you, Courtney. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I feel very lucky. I've had a very lucky life. Legs or no legs. I mean, I'm so handsome. Could you imagine how unfair it would have been to make me as handsome as I am and to take away my legs? All the rest of the men out there would have had no shot. I'd have taken all the women for myself. Uh, Mark Roy. Okay, let's chat. Mark Roy, I'm happy to chat with you, but I'm hoping you can hit the like and subscribe button. In this hypothetical, would this and two vowels, he wouldn't already be a Lewis until he joins. You can't be a Lewis until you join Freemasonry. He'd be the son of a Freemason. But maybe the lodge could do some type of special ceremony where they get dispensation and give him some type of recognition, maybe not a Lewis jewel per se, but something to allow him and his dad to recognize that relationship without admission in the craft. Because I'm assuming the dad would pay the dues. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I've never seen it come across before. You're throwing a whole bunch of stuff in there, Mark Roy. Some of those are Masonic related. Some of those I'm not so sure are Masonic related. Widow's Son, also a motorcycle club for Freemasons in many cases, not exclusively. Hiram Abiff, important figure in Freemasonry. I assume by EA you mean entered apprentice. Well, they could. I mean, yeah, certainly when it comes to, and it's not just Lewis's per se. If you're a Mason and you have a son or a daughter, obviously your Masonic brethren should care about your family and should support your whole family, including your your kid, whether he's a Mason or not, and maybe in some ways even more so if he has this type of intellectual disability. Mark, Roy, you're saying a lot of stuff, some of which I get, some of which I don't, but I can't just respond to like random all caps messages. Do you have any questions, any thoughts, anything more specific that I can try to answer? I can't make any promises, but I can try my best. And as I'm always saying, please don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. It would help out a lot and would be greatly appreciated. I mean, I can ask you some questions. I guess my first question would be, how did you find the stream, right? Were you searching for Freemasonry? Were you scrolling? How did how did I show up? How did my ugly face / handsome face show up on your phone / computer screen? Because I always want to know that, because I always want to know where I'm being found. Okay, chance. So thank you to the YouTube algorithm. Um, are you interested in Freemasonry? Is it something you research and study? I'm seeing, again, Hiram Abiff. I saw up there, famous figure within Freemasonry, EA, entered apprentice. So I'm guessing you do some research into Freemasonry, is my assumption. Is it something that interests you? Do you enjoy learning about civic institutions, fraternities specifically? I've studied the craft for nearly 40 years. As just out of interest, what led you to be interested in studying the craft? 'Cause 40 years is a fairly decent time frame. I mean, I've been a Mason for 20 years. Um, so not as long as 40. I mean, I knew about it beforehand. I'm 42 and my dad was a Freemason. So I kind of grew up around it. But I joined in 2007. I started really studying it in 2015 or thereabouts. Oh, morals and dogma. One of my favorite quotes was Freemasons know about Freemasonry because they're Freemasons. Non-Masons know about Freemasonry because of morals and dogma. You got to take that. I've read it. I'm a Scottish Rite Mason myself. You have to take that book with a huge grain of salt. I would actually say with a salt lick, in point of fact, not even a grain of salt. Ultimately, it's the philosophy of one man, Albert Pike, and his views on Freemasonry and Scottish Rite in particular. It's not anything beyond that. So you need to be very careful about how much you take it as you don't want to take it as gospel, that's for sure. You want to take it as one man's opinion and one man's interpretation of Freemasonry. One man, by the way, from Arkansas, who was writing specifically about the southern jurisdiction of Freemasonry. There's a northern jurisdiction of Scottish Rite. Arkansas has its own jurisdiction as well, separate from the other 50 states. Just keep those things in mind. But thank you for being here. I do hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. Did you ever consider joining Freemasonry, Mark, Roy? Just out of curiosity. If you don't want to answer, that's no trouble at all. And I'm not trying to encourage anybody to join or not join. I'm always just curious, though, when people get interested in Freemasonry. Okay, so it sounds like you're more opposed to Freemasonry or anti-Masonic, which is fine. You're welcome to be that. I'm still happy that you're here. I speak English and bad English, but I'd like to learn French. It's on my list of things I'd like to learn. 100%. Though I still appreciate being here, and at least I can give you my views on why I joined and why I love Freemasonry and why I think it makes the world a better place. Oh, well, I know the question you're asking and why you're asking it. It's because you've read way too much more than dogma. I'm going to take your question literally, though. There is no Freemason God, right? Freemasonry is not a religion. Rather, every Mason worships a supreme being as he understands it. A good place to understand that, Mark Roy, would be the Anderson Constitutions of 1723. I'm not sure if you read those, but that's a really good place to understand kind of the religious tolerance within Freemasonry. I believe in a supreme being. I don't necessarily follow any particular religious faith or belief. I guess the closest would be Christian by default, but there is no Masonic God, right? My God, personally, the way I always describe it is my God is a supreme being that is reflected through the rational understanding of the universe. But what I would say to you, Mark, is read the Anderson Constitution. That's probably the best place to go. Well, the great architect of the universe, that's a name that can be used. Supreme being, but every Mason has in his mind a different architect, if you want to use that term, right? So for a Muslim Mason, when they hear that term, they're thinking of Allah, for example. A Christian will think of Jesus, probably. A Jewish person will think of, I can't think of the name now. Yahweh, I think. An indigenous person might think of kind of the creator or nature in some way. Hindu people, I forget the name of their religion. For me, it's mathematical equations in some ways. However, it is not synonymous with Satan, Baal, Lucifer, Kronos, Saturn, Baphomet. I've never heard in any Masonic context any of those names brought up, except for the name Lucifer, and that was exclusively in morals and dogma and nothing else. And I have been told there are Luciferian Freemasons. Never met one. Never met a satanic Freemason. Never met a Freemason worshiping Baphomet or Ishtar. Well, what I would say, Mark, is it's always possible I don't know what I'm talking about, but what I would suggest to you is read the Anderson Constitutions and read the Regis poem. And if you already read them, I would suggest reread them because you may have missed over some really important elements in those. I did not marry anyone when I took the first degree, but even that, Mark, you need to keep in mind there are multiple types of Masonic rituals. The ritual in Ontario, it's called emulation. It's very different than the ritual in Texas, which is York Rite. Every state, it's different. Every province, it's different. So the idea even that you can say, every first degree is different depending on the jurisdiction you're in, right? I've been to thousands of Masonic events, probably seen hundreds of Masonic rituals in various countries, never seen any watermarks or any quote unquote marriage ceremonies. Well, I mean, the first degree is the first degree. There's entered apprentice, fellow craft, master mason. Then there's Scottish Rite, New York Rite dependent bodies, which are a whole different can of tuna. Alpha equals omega. I mean, I would definitely. I'm not sure how you could argue the first degree is the last degree. The first degree is literally the first degree I ever took. Certainly, I would suggest maybe the first degree has the most important information in it because it's where you're starting your Masonic journey. So it's kind of the most. It's that very important first step that is so necessary when you're joining with anything. Um, right? It's vitally important. So I would say that is the case. I wish in some ways I was trapped in it, funnily enough. What I mean by that is, unfortunately, within Freemasonry, and I say unfortunately, but it's okay because we're not a cult, so it should be this way. Many people join Freemasonry and leave Freemasonry, and they certainly don't feel trapped within it. I wish in some ways Freemasonry was maybe a little bit more sticky and encouraged more people to stick around. But if they choose not to, that's okay. Um, Donald Trump is not a Mason. I can never say that 100% for sure, but all the evidence I've seen is that he is not a Mason, nor is the entire cabinet. Aren't some of the cabinet members women? Not to say that you can't be a woman Freemason, but it's very rare. The Order of Women Freemasons is not very common, certainly not very common in the United States. Um, Yeah, there's Order of Eastern Star as well. They are more common in the United States, but you wouldn't call it somebody a woman who's a member of the Order of Eastern Star a Freemason per se. Um, they're part of the Masonic family, but it's not quite the same thing. Um, but there is also, again, Order of Women Freemasons, much more common in England and United Kingdom. Sorry, Mark. I don't know what a lot of these mean, but you are increasing my channel engagement, so I do appreciate that very much. I'm going to be ending this stream shortly because I have to get ready for a whole nother meeting. Because no rest for the wicked, as they say. During my next set of travels, though, I will be keeping everybody informed on my social media accounts. So just watch for those. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, but she's a crazy person. Very sorry to say, Candace Owens. I think she's a crazy person. Um, she used the term Freemason as in well, Freemasons aren't psychics, Dreamburks, as in like builders. I think she used the term like we are the Freemasons of turning points or something. It's a weird way to use it. I mean, she's a conspiracy theorist, so a lot of her stuff is nonsense. She's talked negatively about Freemasons in the past. I did see that where she talked about it as though it's like the builder of. Um, why should we be? I don't believe in psychic powers, and I'm a Freemason. Um, I do believe in people hitting the like and subscribe button. So, you know, please consider doing so. I I I don't know, Rondo, if this is how etymology works. It's very strange to me. It's very, very strange. Here we are mentioning turning points. That'll increase the engagement. And Candace Owens. I am not a fan of either of them. I speak exclusively for myself, but yeah, she's certainly talked negatively about Freemasonry in the past. Well, James, thank you for being here. I'm going to be ending the stream soon anyway, so I'm not gonna. There's no point in putting Mark in timeout because this stream will be ending shortly. Because, like I said, I gotta get ready to travel to Essex for what will be a very fun meeting, I have no doubt. Keeping myself busy, keeping myself occupied. See, I've never heard the number 53 within Freemasonry. 3 and 5 are important numbers, but so is 7, um, for that matter. So are just prime numbers in general. But historically, prime numbers have always been very important, right? Like 7 liberal arts and sciences, 7 deadly sins. Um, you see 7 popping up a lot of times. All right, guys, this has been a very fun stream. I will be back on at 1 a.m. I hope I gave you some ideas as to what you can bring to your Masonic lodges. I have been a fool many times, Mark, and I'll be a fool many times in the future, but that should not stop anybody from hitting the like and subscribe button. All right, guys, thank you all so much. Don't worry about it, Courtney. One of the things is if you want to be online, you have to accept you're going to get the Mark Roys of the rule, Mark Roys of the world showing up. That's okay. I still appreciate everybody being here. All right, guys, I'll talk to you all perhaps in about 12 hours or 1 a.m. I hope everybody has an excellent night or excellent day as always. If you take part in any of those events I talked about or plan a different event to make your lodge meeting more exciting, let me know. I want to hear about it in the comments. All right, talk to you guys later.